I'd like to invite on stage Frédéric Herman, who is the Rector of University of Lausanne. I also ask Anna Fontcuberta, Morral, my own boss, to join us, and David Bach from IMD. We're very lucky here, I want to add, because I've been working more with... I was saying we're very lucky because I've been working a bit closer with the three of you, and I know that you have a lifestyle of, I was going to say rock stars, or maybe prime ministers in terms of how busy you tend to be on these topics.
We have a private jet.
You do?
No, we don't.
Oh, let me know. I'd like to start with Frédéric, right? So some of the themes we have been talking about today is about adding new meaning, new goals for organizations. And the University of Lausanne, which you have been heading since 2021, if I'm not mistaken, has been at the forefront of adding new goals, right? So, a university is not just research and education, but you've been thinking about making University of Lausanne a better citizen. And so I'd like to hear you to reflect a bit on the challenges, but also things you've learned in that process with the CAP 2037 and other initiatives you had. How do you transform an organization of tens of thousands of people and stakeholders?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me today, and thank you for what you just said. At the beginning, I prefer being a rock star than a prime minister. And I'm not French. Yeah. But one thing that is quite striking when I got into this job is the size of the institution. And in fact, if you look at UNIL and EPFL as campuses, it's about 40,000 people. And that's actually the second largest city in the canton during the day. So that comes with challenges. I mean, you have to come on campus, you have the mobility, you have to eat on campus, you have to consume energy. And I found that very, very interesting. And we have to care about the well-being of our students. That's essential. I mean, if you're well, you learn better. We also have to care about the well-being of our staff, because you perform better when you're well. And to do that, we work closely with the associations and the university hospital. But then when we started, as you mentioned, we wanted to have an impact on what we do, and the impact we actually have on the environment, and reduce it. And I had the chance to be in the university where there is a very long experience. And the university, and thanks to Benoît Franc, will be giving a talk later, and his teams, in fact, had been using the campus as a living lab. And you can do it. You've got the scientists, you can follow the biodiversity, you can follow how we move, you can follow the energy or financial investments as well. And that was all great. But we thought when we started that we have to go further. And we wanted to demonstrate that as an academic institution, if we dare to explain to the rest of the world how we can do better, we should maybe apply it to ourselves. And then we would be more credible. And this is what we did. So we used the donut economy as a framework. So we started to quantify our environmental impact. And when we did that exercise, we saw that we overshoot all the planetary limits. So that didn't look that great. So we took that as a start, and we said, okay, we need to have objective and measures. So we picked 60 people within the institution, and we put them to work for a full year. And it's interesting to see them, because at the beginning, when they see the impact, they really wow, we're a great university, we think about the environment, but our impact is enormous. But then we accompanied them with an expertise, and by the end of the process, they came with objectives and measures. And when you see them at the end, there's a documentary, and I invite everybody to watch it, you see that people are sad at the beginning, but they're very happy at the end, because they've been working and co-working together to build a positive future. And that's great. The problem is that they gave us their report, and they said, no, you do it. And that's the challenge. And we are doing it. We decided to divide the work. We have small task force, and people are doing it. And I was really happy to see that after 2 years, our emissions had been reduced by 11%. So it actually demonstrates it's possible. This year it's going back again because it was cold in the winter, but at least we can monitor it, we know where it's coming from, and then we can think about the future. And I think that's going to keep going down for emissions and our environmental impact. So I'm actually really proud of the work that has been done within the university.
So this is really going beyond the living lab perspective, right? It's an entire transformation of the organization.
Yeah, and we continue with the living lab perspective, using the expertise internally, and there are challenges, but but it's going in the right direction.
Great, thank you so much. Anna, if I may turn to you. EPFL, as we know, has its own strengths. Technology is a topic that came up throughout the day, right? Both in good and in bad. Now we know we're going beyond the vision of technology just being good or just being bad. But I also know you're very interested in the way EPFL can contribute to the community and so forth, right? And so I'd like to hear, maybe if you could tell a bit more about where you see EPFL going as a contributor to the community, to, again, take into account these goals that are not, again, the traditional ones inherited from the 19th century about we do research, we do education, and that's it. So I'd like to hear a bit more, what do you think EPFL can contribute in that space?
The first thing that we contribute, and that's the most important, is that our students are multiplicators. They're the engineers, the scientists that go into the field, they teach others, and so what they do well, they will teach others to do even better. And so if we teach them to be sustainable, that we are educating a full generation of people that know how to do engineering, to use less energy, use less materials, and to contribute to circularity, for example. So that's the most important impact. For doing this, we have, of course, a similar approach than UNIL. We try to have a campus that is more sustainable every day with decreasing CO2 emissions. And we communicate about this so that people start to understand. In the first year of their courses, students have a course that teach them the concepts of sustainability. First year is complicated because it's a year where they know that either they pass or not pass. So it's a high-risk year, but we still give them the concepts because then later on when the different lectures talk about these topics, they connect the dots and they understand how they can have a positive impact. We also think about bringing concepts of ethics and not having learning ethics just by heart, but learning how you can have, by developing a product, you think you're doing good, but in fact, if you're able to connect dots, you can understand if you are doing good for the world or not, because you have to take into account many things that are outside your field. So starting to teach them this. So this is in terms of education. We also, of course, our research, we have created, for example, problem solutions for sustainability, in which we gave 20 million. It was a competition, and research groups could team together to come with solutions that could be implemented on campus, but also solutions that could be implemented in scale-ups in companies to find solutions that for reducing CO2, capturing CO2, etc. So that's in the research. It's one example of many. I have to say, by hiring the best researchers, they come up with also the best questions, and then the questions that are the most relevant for society, and they come up with these things. And then innovation, by finding ways of using less energy or capturing CO2. I mean, it has been said that the CO2 that is in the atmosphere is out there. There are ways of capturing CO2 in the atmosphere, but also in the oceans. The concentration of CO2 in the oceans is much higher than in the atmosphere, and there is an equilibrium between the oceans and the atmosphere. So if you capture CO2 in the oceans, you reduce automatically the CO2 in the atmosphere. So there are technical solutions. And so by just stimulating researchers to do that's what we do. And on top of this, our mission is innovation and impact. It means being in contact with society, listening to society, what they have to say, and how we can contribute dialogue and make sure that we're in exchange and not in a bubble.
Maybe one thing I just want to come back, you mentioned the ethics part, right? So EPFL recently hosted a roundtable on ethics, and I'm pretty sure 30 years ago that would not have happened here. I was not here, I was not at EPFL at the time. But that kind of shows a change, right?
There's a change, and in parallel to this event, there is a whole day on ethics with experts coming. So it's a pity that it's in parallel with this event, but exactly right now, there's a symposium on ethics on the other side of the campus.
Thank you so much. David, you are trained as a political economist. You're also, as heading the IMD, at the forefront of the ebbs and flows regarding the interest in these type of discussions we've had today. And I'd like to hear how you handle that, because you've also been very vocal on social media about, keep maintaining a steady ship. And so I want to hear a bit how your experience has been over the last 10 months or so with, some backlash that has occurred in the US and elsewhere, and, how you navigate this difficult challenge, the feedback you receive from businesses, and so forth and so on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, First of all, congratulations on this amazing event. It's such a joy being part of this collaboration and seeing so much interest in these important topics. And at IMD, we're a very different kind of institution. You're talking about 40,000 folks on the combined campus here. We're about 1% of that size, a much smaller institution, but we also try to lean into that multiplier effect that you described, Anna. So we try to impact the impactful. Most of what we do is work with senior executives, people who make decisions that impact organizations, that impact communities, and at times whole societies. And so for us, it's been very important to remain focused on some of the basics. Science is still science. Economics is still economics. Renewable energy is still cheaper. Diverse teams still perform better. And so we've been trying to help the leaders who come to campus understand that organizing their strategies around the political wins is not advantageous. That is not how you lead an organization, how you lead a team, how you create value in the long term. Now, having said that, many of the leaders we work with, many of the organizations that they lead are directly impacted by changing policy. I'll give you an example. Last week, I was in Copenhagen. We had an event with the CEO of the largest wind turbine manufacturer in Europe. And of course, what happens in the US impacts their business. But that doesn't mean that you suddenly decide that what you've been working towards, the science that you have on your side, the economics that you have on your side, are no longer relevant. So you find strategies of adaptation. So one of the things that I'm very much encouraged by, a concept that I'm sure many of the audience are now familiar with, green hushing. You're continuing to do the work, but you talk about it less. Now, many of us in the room would like to see leaders speak more openly about the contributions they're making to sustainability, but I'm encouraged by the fact that they continue to do it even when they find it politically not necessarily in their interest. And so I think we're seeing now that the business case is real because the work continues, the interest continues, the innovation continues. The way you talk about it might be different. Wind energy is zero carbon or low carbon energy. It also happens to be affordable energy, and it happens to bolster Europe's energy security. So we can talk about security, affordability, and sustainability as opposed to just talking about sustainability. So we're supporting leaders and organizations to continue to do the right thing, to continue to make the important progress in an environment that certainly has become more challenging.
That's interesting, right? So because the visible part seems to be really kind of a change of direction for many corporations and other organizations, right? But what you're saying is that you observe still similar interest, maybe just less publicly visible. Is that an accurate
Sure, and I wouldn't actually even say that, the work in many areas is intensifying, right? We talked about earlier, of course, there are physical limits in the world. Circularity isn't just a nice to have, it's a business imperative in a world in which demand for resources has been outstripping in many areas supply. We want to electrify in order to improve our energy performance. That means we need copper, lots of it, and therefore all of a sudden, circularity becomes a driver of value creation, right? So there's so many examples of this. Clearly, favorable public policy would be good. I have a lot of CEOs who say that. Is this a great environment? No. But does it remain important to continue to find ways of innovating, reducing the footprint, being more circular, and using that also to motivate teams? Absolutely.
Great. So Jean-Marc Janfleury earlier described many of these problems that we're facing as constraint optimization problems, right? You want to optimize something and you have some constraints. So now I'd like to hear from all three of you is, we have possibly donors in the room, is, if you could loosen...
If you could identify yourself, please.
And leave your business card at the end.
Exactly.
We'll have a bag to keep them. If we could loosen your budgetary constraints, right, is where do you see the highest impact your organization, again, thinking about where your comparative advantage lies, where could you really, with 6, 7 digits number, 8 digit numbers, where could you really make a difference moving forwards? And that's an open,
First.
Well, at this time of history, I would just invite everyone to rethink about defending fundamental research. I mean, this is the beginning of the innovation process. In the presentation before, we've seen two very productive fundamental research about glaciation and weathering. In fact, if we were not doing that and if we were not having good data, we would not know that climate is changing. So And budgets are being cut everywhere. We've seen what's happening in the US, so I invite everybody to defend fundamental research. After, on the operational side, I think having these living labs, and we can extend it. I talked about the sustainability, but of course there's the well-being, having physical activity, what people eat on campus, the environmental impact it has, and think in an ecosystem way. And we can continue in that direction. So these two aspects I would mention.
Go next.
Go.
No, please.
So, apart from educating the engineers of the future with the right mindset, I think we are here to provide solutions that will help decarbonize the economy and maintain a good quality of life.
So I think I split a gift between sort of two parts, right? And the first part of it is, there's a lot of knowledge at an institution like IMD, but also across our institution, that we're not managing to get out at scale. So our colleague Florian Hues is here. You work closely with him. He's led an effort to put together an online course. You should check it out, by the way, on ESG fundamentals. And it basically takes all the knowledge that we have at IMD, or a lot of the knowledge that we have at IMD, and makes it freely available. So I think we had 7 or 8 different faculty contributing. And people can access it from all over the world. And if we had more resources, we would do lots more of this, right? Not just on sustainability, but also on change management, on leadership skills, right? Because it so happens that, operating here in Switzerland with the constraints that we have, what we do is expensive, and support to make it more widely accessible, I think, would be really, really helpful. At the same time, I go to the very top of the organizations, primarily boards. What we're finding increasingly is CEOs, C-suite teams who want to move faster, but they're dealing with boards of publicly traded companies, but also of privately held companies that are cautious, they might be more short-term oriented during the term, they might lack some of the knowledge that they need to really see the opportunities. So I think you want to do 2 things. You want to just get more knowledge into the hands and more tools into the hands of more people, and remove speed bumps. And educating boards, I think, is one way of doing that.
There's one thing that we do all 3 together, which is to create the interface between, I should say, IMD and EPFL. These worlds that typically are separate,
yes.
And bringing them together, it multiplies the impact even more.
Right. Somebody could fund this.
Could we call it a center, maybe an enterprise center?
Enterprise for Society, it looks like, yeah?
Maybe.
Good name.
Excellent.
No, but we can be happy of the success so far. I mean, it's a lot of people today. We've got several cohorts of students now, and it's been working really well, and we have to keep that going.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know you all have pressing issues, so I appreciate greatly that you joined us. Thank you so much.
Merci.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michaël.
Thank you.